My name is Claire, and a year ago my mom invited me to what she called a family talk. It was supposed to be about healing. It was actually about taking something that was legally mine. If you've ever been cornered by family over money, tell me what happened to you in the comments. The microwave beeped while an email from a contractor sat half-finished on my laptop. Dinner was something reheated, eaten standing up, the kind of evening that barely registers as a memory. My phone lit up on the counter with my mother's name. I let it buzz twice before answering. "Hey, Claire," Linda said, already sounding careful. "We should have a family talk this weekend." She paused, then added, "No lawyers, just us." The words landed heavier than she intended. Work emails blurred on the screen. A response formed, stalled, then dissolved. "Okay," I said. Her relief came through instantly. "Good, it'll be nice." Saturday afternoon, the drive to her house felt longer than usual. The neighborhood hadn't changed, but the place looked staged, like it was waiting for something. Everyone was already there when I walked in. My brother nodded. My sister smiled too fast. Linda gestured toward the couch as if we were about to watch a movie together. She started gently. "We just want to talk openly," she said, "about Grandpa's inheritance." The sentence was neat, practiced. The request followed without build-up. "We think it should be shared evenly," she said, "so no one feels uncomfortable." "That money was left to me," I said. "It's in his will. It's not a family fund." The temperature dropped. Voices shifted lower, sharper. "You're being selfish," my brother said. "After everything Mom's done for you," my sister added. "Unbelievable," someone muttered. On the coffee table sat a photocopy of the will. I noticed it only because the pages weren't clipped together. The final signature page was missing. No one mentioned that. No one needed to. Linda leaned forward. "The lawyer already knows what's best for the family," she said, then stopped, lips pressing together like she'd tripped on a stair. The room went still. My eyes drifted to the corner where the security system panel usually glowed. The screen was dark. "Oh, we turned that off," Linda said, following my gaze. "Private conversation." Paper slid across the table. My brother stacked documents into a tidy pile, aligning the corners. The gesture looked rehearsed, almost polite. "We're just talking," Linda said, smiling, as if that explained everything. "I'm not signing anything," I said. The chair scraped as I stood. Silence stretched. Linda's expression changed last. The warmth drained first, then the familiarity. "If you walk out," she said, voice even, "don't be surprised what happens next." Every face turned toward me. No one moved. The stack of papers waited on the table perfectly aligned, while my hand hovered over my keys, already deciding which door to use. Monday morning arrived without drama, which somehow made everything worse. Slack messages stacked up, a meeting invite blinked on the screen, and the version of my life that existed before Saturday kept going as if nothing had cracked. That illusion lasted until my phone started vibrating on the desk. Aunt Carol texted first. "Heard there's some tension about Grandpa's money. Hope you're doing the right thing." 10 minutes later, a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years sent a thumbs-up emoji followed by, "Family over money, right?" By lunchtime, the pattern was obvious. No one asked what happened. They asked why. Or they asked if I was okay, the way people do when they've already chosen a side. At work, focus came in short bursts. A spreadsheet stayed open while my inbox refreshed again. An email from HR sat unread for a full minute before I clicked it. "Hi, Claire," it began, polite and bloodless. "We've been contacted regarding a potential family dispute that may involve legal proceedings. Please confirm whether this affects your availability or role." Someone had made a call. Not to me, not even to ask, just enough to leave a mark. The rest of the day blurred into polite nods and half-finished tasks. A coworker asked if everything was all right. "Just family stuff," came out automatically. "Oh," she said, stepping back a little. "That's always complicated." Linda didn't text me. She didn't have to. Her version of events traveled faster without resistance. By evening, my sister's friend from college had liked an old photo on my social media, then immediately unliked it. The message was clear enough. The next day, Linda started calling relatives directly. That part I learned later. What reached me were the echoes. "She sacrificed so much," one voicemail said. "You know your mom paid for your schooling," another added, with a tone that suggested debt collectors rather than parents. Someone else asked if I really wanted to burn bridges over paperwork. No response went out. Silence wasn't strategy. It was habit. Wednesday afternoon, I met Maya Alvarez at a coffee shop a few blocks from my office. She arrived on time, ordered without looking at the menu, and opened her laptop before sitting down. "Tell me what changed since Saturday," she said. I laid out the facts without decoration. The meeting, the photocopied will, the missing page, the comment about the lawyer, the camera turned off. Maya typed as I talked, fingers steady. When I finished, she nodded once. "Okay," she said. "First thing, stop trying to win an argument you're not in." "What argument is that?" "The moral one," she replied. "Families love those. Courts don't." The advice came clean and unsentimental. Gather documents. Lock access. Assume anything informal would be used later as evidence of consent. Also, Maya added, scrolling through her screen, someone contacted my office last week asking about transferring control of your inheritance into a family trust. That sentence landed harder than anything my relatives had said. "Who?" "Not you," she answered. "They didn't give a name, just said they were acting in the family's interest." The missing signature page suddenly made sense in a way that didn't feel clever. It felt procedural. Pressure kept building. On Friday, an email arrived from Linda with my siblings CC'd. "Claire," she wrote, "we need to finish this conversation. Please come by Sunday afternoon. There are deadlines involved, and we'd prefer to resolve this privately before other steps become necessary." No threats, just implication. I forwarded the message to Maya. She replied within minutes. "That deadline is real," she wrote, "and it's not about family harmony." We met again briefly that evening. Maya slid a printed calendar across the table, tapping a date near the end of the month. "This is when control becomes much harder to contest," she said. "They picked Sunday for a reason." "Of course they did," I said. Maya closed her laptop. "For what it's worth," she added, "families always say no lawyers right before they need one." The line wasn't a joke. It didn't need to be. The search started with a keyword, Grandpa's last name, then the law firm's domain. An old laptop hummed on the kitchen table while folders opened one by one, most of them boring, some of them familiar. Buried between travel receipts and holiday photos sat an email thread dated 8 months back. The subject line was plain, estate documents. It wasn't addressed to me. It had been forwarded. The sender was my mother. The original email came from Grandpa's attorney, outlining next steps and attaching several PDFs. The forwarding note was short, written in Linda's voice, the one she used when she wanted to sound efficient rather than warm. "FYI, let me know if this needs attention." The timestamp told the rest of the story. This wasn't new. This wasn't reactive. Someone had been paying attention long before Saturday. One attachment opened slowly. A draft authorization form, blank signature line, unsent. In the margin, next to a paragraph about management authority, sat handwritten notes scanned in faint gray. Linda's handwriting. I recognized it from grocery lists and birthday cards. Temporary solution, she'd written, family trust cleaner. That explained the missing page on the coffee table. Not a mistake, a choice. The phone rang before the laptop could close. Linda's name filled the screen. "Claire," she said, voice already strained, "I didn't sleep last night." The call lasted 7 minutes. Tears arrived on cue. So did the numbers. Mortgage, repairs, rising costs. "We're barely keeping the house," she said. "This would help everyone." The next day she called again, and the day after that. Sometimes crying, sometimes firm, always circling back to money. My brother followed up with texts. "You know lawyers will bleed you dry. Mom's under a lot of stress. Why make this ugly?" Silence became harder to maintain when the pressure learned how to pace itself. By Friday, a decision formed that felt practical rather than brave. Drive over, ask directly. No witnesses, no emails. Linda answered the door like she'd been waiting behind it. "You look tired," she said. "Come in." The kitchen table was cleared this time. No papers, no folders, just 2 chairs and a glass of water already poured. "I saw the email," I said, "the one you forwarded from Grandpa's lawyer." She blinked once. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The draft authorization," I continued, "with your notes on it." Linda laughed, sharp and quick. "You're stressed," she said. "This whole thing has you imagining problems." "I saw your handwriting." She waved a hand. "I take notes on everything. That doesn't mean anything." The denial came easily, practiced like a line she'd rehearsed alone. "I would never go behind your back," she said. "Never." Her hand reached for a folder I hadn't noticed on the counter. The photocopy of the will slid out, the same incomplete version. Before I could speak, she tore it in half. Paper split cleanly, the sound louder than expected. "There," she said. "Problem solved." The moment carried an odd calm to it, a strange mismatch between words and action. "I'd never do that to you," she added, holding the torn pages like proof of innocence. "That was my copy," I said. "You don't need it," she replied. "We're family." Voices rose. My brother appeared in the doorway. My sister followed. The room filled with explanations and accusations that overlapped without landing. "You're letting paranoia run this," Linda said. "Lawyers love people like you." "You think you're smarter than everyone?" The conversation stopped being one when no one waited for an answer. Keys ended up in my hand without a clear moment of decision. The front door closed behind me as words continued inside, muffled and unfinished. Night had settled by the time the car started, headlights cutting across the driveway where nothing had changed except the context. The phone buzzed at a red light, a message from Maya. "They've escalated. We need to act now." The bank notification arrived mid-morning, sandwiched between calendar alerts and a reminder to submit expenses. The subject line looked harmless enough until the first sentence made it clear something had shifted. "Due to a reported dispute, transactions related to the referenced inheritance have been temporarily paused pending verification." There was a phone number at the bottom. Calling it didn't change the message. "This is Standard," the representative said. "We just need to confirm a few things." Standard didn't make it feel smaller. Work didn't pause. Meetings still happened. Deadlines stayed where they were. An hour later, my manager asked if I had time to talk. The door to her office closed softly. "HR flagged something," she said. "Is there a legal issue we should know about?" "It's a family matter," I replied. "There's no impact on my role." She nodded, then hesitated. "Please keep me updated," she said. "It's just a formality." Formalities had a way of multiplying. By afternoon, Maya confirmed what the bank wouldn't say directly. Someone submitted a request claiming the will may not reflect your grandfather's true intent. "Someone," I repeated. "Yes," she said, "and they didn't do it anonymously." The letter arrived the next day, sent to Maya's office, but addressed to me. Linda's attorney laid out the concern in careful language. Questions about undue influence, capacity, whether Grandpa might have intended his assets to support the entire family. A cousin's name appeared at the bottom as a supporting statement. "He always said he wanted to take care of everyone," the affidavit claimed. That cousin had visited Grandpa twice in the last decade. Calls went unanswered. Texts stayed unread. The version of events no longer required my participation. Maya moved quickly where she could. Requests went out. Documents were gathered. Some things, however, were already in motion. "There's more," she said during a call that evening. "Remember the security system you noticed? The one that was off?" "Yes," she said. "We pulled the service logs. It wasn't a glitch." Linda had disabled it manually. The timestamp matched the start of the family meeting. The detail landed without ceremony. Not shocking, not surprising, just confirming what had already been implied. "They planned that," Maya said. "This wasn't a reaction." The pattern sharpened, all at once. The forwarded emails, the missing page, the early questions about trusts, the pressure framed as concern. At work, another conversation waited. A compliance form appeared in my inbox, asking for disclosure of any pending disputes involving financial assets. Just routine, the note said. Linda called that night, cheerful enough to sound rehearsed. "We should all slow down," she said. "This is getting blown out of proportion." A pause followed. "Our lawyer just wants clarity," she added. "Nothing to worry about if you have nothing to hide." The call ended before a response could form. By Friday, the freeze expanded. A payment scheduled for the following week was flagged. The bank needed more time. HR needed updates. Maya needed patience she didn't have the authority to request. A meeting was set at her office the following Monday. No family, just paperwork. The conference room held 3 chairs and a stack of files thicker than necessary. Maya spoke without raising her voice. "They're building a case," she said. "Not a good one, but a disruptive one." "What do we do?" "We stop reacting," she replied, "and start deciding where this ends." The word choice mattered, not how to fix it, where to stop it. "If you keep playing defense," Maya continued, "they'll control the pace. Every answer will create another question." Silence stretched. The advice wasn't dramatic. It didn't promise relief. Across the table, Maya slid a legal pad closer. Dates were circled. Deadlines underlined. "Everything so far assumes you'll compromise," she said. "They're betting on that." A pen rested between my fingers. The paper waited. Outside the office, voices moved down the hall, someone laughing at a joke that didn't belong to this conversation. "If you want to keep what's yours," Maya said, "we change how this is played." The apartment stayed exactly as I left it, which felt wrong. Shoes by the door, a mug in the sink, the phone on the table face down. No notifications buzzing, no emails open, no half-written replies waiting to be edited into something softer. For the first time since this started, nothing was being managed. No calls returned, no explanations drafted. The silence wasn't strategic. It was exhaustion, finally catching up. The couch became a place to sit without scrolling. The clock moved without supervision. Messages stacked up anyway. Missed calls from Linda. A text from my brother asking if I was ready to be reasonable. Another from my sister reminding me how fragile Mom was right now. None of them got a response. Not because I had a better one, because every answer I'd practiced still assumed someone wanted to listen. Patterns don't announce themselves all at once. They repeat until ignoring them takes effort. Looking back over the last few weeks, the mistake was obvious and specific. Every small discomfort had been dismissed as overthinking. The missing page, the forwarded email, the early talk about trusts. Each one was easier to downplay than to confront. Staying agreeable felt safer than being clear. That habit finally ran out of usefulness. The problem hadn't been money. It never was. The numbers just made the behavior visible. Control had been the constant, applied the same way it always had been, just with higher stakes. Decisions framed as concern, pressure disguised as family duty, silence rewarded, resistance punished. The inheritance didn't create that pattern, it exposed it. A message from Maya arrived without urgency. "Can you talk?" The call connected on the second ring. "I've reviewed everything again," she said, "and I need to confirm something." The confirmation wasn't dramatic, no reveal, just a fact I'd known but hadn't fully claimed. "You completed the transfer into a private trust months ago," Maya continued. "Before the first family meeting. It's done. They can't access it." The words settled slowly. "So the freeze?" "Temporary pressure," she said. "Not a breach." There was a pause, then the condition followed. "If we activate the trust formally," Maya added, "it becomes public record. Your position becomes clear. So does the boundary." "And the family?" "That bridge," she said, choosing her words, "won't look the same afterward." The cost finally had a name. Losing the version of myself that stayed palatable, the one who smoothed things over, the one who absorbed discomfort so no one else had to. That role came with approval. Letting it go meant accepting a different reputation. Difficult, cold, ungrateful. The labels were already circulating. Making them permanent was the part that stuck. A text from Linda appeared mid-call as if summoned. "We can still fix this," she wrote. "Just come talk." And Maya waited. "This is the moment," she said. Not the loud one, the quiet decision that sets everything else in motion. The phone rested on the table again. The room didn't change, the feeling did. No rush, no spike of panic, just clarity narrowing options instead of expanding them. "What happens next?" "I draft the notice," Maya replied. "We stop responding informally. Everything goes through counsel." Another pause. "And you understand," she added, "once this starts, there's no pretending later that it was a misunderstanding." "I understand." The words came out evenly. No speech, no justification. Agreement without apology. Maya's keyboard clicked on the other end of the line. "I'll send you a draft in a few minutes," she said. The call ended. The phone stayed where it was. Across the room, the laptop sat closed for once. No emails waited to be softened. No family thread needed monitoring. When the message from Maya arrived, the subject line was short and procedural. Notice of trust activation. The reply didn't take long. "Do it." The envelope arrived by courier, not mail. Thick paper, neutral branding. Maya texted before I opened it. "This one matters." The letter wasn't emotional. It didn't need to be. Linda's attorney laid out their position with careful restraint, the kind that signals confidence rather than courtesy. The trust, they argued, may have been created under undue familial influence. They requested a review, not a demand, a suggestion wrapped in procedure. Maya called 5 minutes later. "They're not backing down," she said, "and they've expanded the story." The expansion came in pieces. A property record surfaced, showing my mother's house had been refinanced twice in the last 3 years. A notice of default followed, dated weeks before the first family meeting. The timeline lined up too cleanly to ignore. This wasn't about sharing, Maya said. It was about rescue. The scope widened quickly. Linda hadn't just spoken to one attorney, she'd contacted 2. She'd called relatives selectively, choosing people who remembered Grandpa as generous but distant. She'd seeded a narrative months earlier, careful enough to sound like concern rather than preparation. That slip during the first meeting made sense now. The lawyer already knows what's best for the family. She hadn't misspoken. She'd referenced a conversation already in progress. The missing page fit too. A partial document is easier to question than a complete one. Plausible confusion becomes leverage when repeated often enough. A cousin who texted support earlier that week sent a new message. "I talked to your mom. This is bigger than you think. We're just trying to protect the family." Support withdrew without apology. It didn't need one. Maya tried to shore up what she could. The forwarded email resurfaced. Metadata intact. Dates clear. Linda's handwriting on the draft authorization still legible. None of it landed the way it should have. "They're calling it a technical misunderstanding," Maya said, claiming email access was shared. Notes were hypothetical. The argument wasn't strong. It didn't need to be. It just needed to delay. Pressure came from both sides now. The bank extended the review. Work asked for updates again. Linda's lawyer requested a joint meeting, framing it as reconciliation. "This is coordinated," Maya said, "and it's not sloppy." The realization didn't sting. It clarified. This wasn't a desperate grab. It was a controlled escalation designed to exhaust and isolate. Every move invited a response. Every response created a record. The family meeting invite arrived that afternoon, Sunday, same house. Final attempt to resolve matters amicably. Maya read it twice. "They want witnesses," she said, "and they think you'll hesitate." "About what?" "About being seen as the problem," she replied. A pause followed. "They're assuming you still want their approval." That assumption had powered everything so far. We met briefly before the weekend. No dramatics, just review. The trust stood. The documentation held. The risk wasn't legal collapse. It was narrative dominance. If this stays private, Maya said, they control how it's told. And if it doesn't, then it becomes about facts, she answered, which they've been avoiding. Sunday came anyway. The house looked the same, clean, neutral. The door opened without delay. Everyone was already seated. A lawyer I didn't recognize stood when I entered. "Claire," he said, smiling, "thank you for coming." Linda watched from the couch, hands folded, expression rehearsed into something like patience. The cousin who'd switched sides nodded politely. My brother avoided eye contact. No one mentioned the debt. No one referenced the default notice. The story stayed clean. The lawyer spoke first. "We're here to clarify misunderstandings," he said, "and protect your grandfather's wishes." The phrasing was careful. It placed me adjacent to the problem, not at the center. I took the empty chair. The weight in the room wasn't fear, it was expectation. They believed momentum was on their side. They believed silence meant doubt. They believed this was the last step before compliance. Maya's text buzzed once in my pocket. "You're walking into the hard part," it read, "but it's also the narrowest point." Linda met my eyes. "We just want peace," she said. No one contradicted her. The meeting began without ceremony. Papers slid across the table. A pen waited near my elbow. The trust wasn't mentioned yet. Neither was the default notice. That would come later, after concessions were framed as kindness. I listened. I nodded. I didn't interrupt. There was no room left to retreat without surrendering ground. That much was clear. The choice wasn't whether to continue. It was whether to keep reacting or finally step out of sequence. The lawyer finished his opening remarks and turned toward me. "Claire," he said, "we'd like to hear your thoughts." The meeting resumed with the tone Linda liked best. Polite, controlled, framed as a last chance to be reasonable. Her lawyer stood near the window, jacket buttoned, hands folded, as if this were mediation instead of pressure. "This is our final opportunity to talk kindly," Linda said. "No courts, no hostility." No one mentioned the bank freeze. No one mentioned the default notice. The conversation stayed carefully narrow. The lawyer cleared his throat. "We're proposing a fair division," he said, "one that avoids unnecessary litigation." Linda nodded. "We just want to share it evenly," she added, "so no one gets hurt." The sentence landed where it always had, on obligation, on guilt, on the assumption that silence meant consent. I didn't answer. The papers shuffled. Someone sighed. The lawyer glanced at his notes, then continued outlining percentages and timelines as if the outcome were already agreed upon. Linda leaned forward again. "If you refuse," she said, "this could get very ugly." That was the third time she'd said it that afternoon. My phone came out of my pocket and rested on the table between us, screen facing up, unlocked. "This meeting is being recorded," I said, "and my attorney is listening." The room shifted. My brother straightened. The cousin's smile disappeared. Linda's voice sharpened. "You're threatening us now?" This is exactly what we were afraid of. A familiar accusation, one that assumed fear still worked. Maya's voice came through the speaker, calm and unhurried. "For clarity," she said, "this recording is lawful." Linda looked toward the lawyer. He said nothing. Maya continued. "The inheritance in question was transferred into a private trust months ago. It is no longer subject to family negotiation." The family attorney blinked. "That's not what we were told." Maya didn't raise her voice. "No one in this room has authority over that trust," she said. "Any attempt to interfere may carry legal consequences." Linda's face drained of color. "That's not true," she said. "You can't just—" "The documentation is complete," Maya replied, "and time-stamped." Linda turned toward me. "You did this behind our backs?" "It was my decision," I said. The lawyer finally spoke. "Linda," he said quietly, "you didn't mention this." She shook her head, words stacking without order. This isn't fair. She's manipulating the system. She's tearing the family apart. Maya waited, then added one more detail. Given recent communications, she said, there is also potential exposure related to misrepresentation and coercive conduct. Silence followed. Not dramatic, just abrupt. The lawyer gathered his papers slowly. "We'll need to reassess," he said. Immediately. Linda's hands trembled as they rested on her knees. "You're abandoning us?" she asked him. "This changes the situation," he replied. Maya closed the folder on her end. "At this point," she said evenly, "further discussion isn't productive." The phrase landed with more weight than any accusation. The lawyer slid his briefcase shut. "We'll be in touch," he said, already stepping away. Linda didn't stand. The chair creaked as she sank back into it, eyes fixed on the table where the papers no longer waited. No one followed the lawyer out. No one spoke. My phone stayed where it was, recording until the room emptied itself of momentum, and the version of this meeting they'd planned finally collapsed under the weight of facts they couldn't argue away. The news didn't come from Linda. It never did. A cousin mentioned it in a casual text, sandwiched between updates about a birthday and a new job. "They finally took the house," she wrote. "Bank thing. I guess it was inevitable." There was no follow-up question, no invitation to respond, just information passing through, stripped of drama by distance. Later that week, I drove past the old neighborhood without meaning to. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Empty driveway, a lockbox still hanging on the front door. Someone else's problem now. Linda had moved into a short-term rental on the other side of town, according to the same cousin. No authority attached to that address, no gatherings, no decisions being made there. Family dynamics adjusted without ceremony. Calls stopped. Group chats went dormant. Holidays rearranged themselves around absence rather than conflict. No apology arrived. None was requested. The gap held. Work filled the space that used to be consumed by monitoring other people's moods. The project that had been half-finished a year ago moved forward in clear steps. Permits approved, candidates scheduled, meetings that ended on time. The community center opened on a Tuesday morning. No speeches, no ribbon. A handful of neighbors wandered in, curious. A sign near the entrance carried my grandfather's name. The choice felt obvious rather than symbolic. He'd spent his life fixing things quietly. This was an extension of that. An email from the city confirmed final approval later that afternoon. "Thank you for your patience." The line sat there, neutral and automatic, offering closure without commentary. It made me laugh once, softly, before closing the tab. Maya checked in briefly. "All accounts are stable," she said. "No further action pending." "That's it?" "That's it," she replied. Silence is usually a good sign. The phone stayed lighter after that. Emergency contacts updated, old numbers removed. Access points closed one by one, each change small enough to be forgettable on its own. Linda didn't call. Neither did my siblings. Whatever version of family existed now had accepted new borders. The distance wasn't hostile. It was functional. One evening, while organizing a drawer that hadn't been opened in months, a spare key surfaced. The one Linda had given me years ago, back when dropping by unannounced was considered closeness rather than intrusion. The key went into an envelope, the envelope into a file marked archived, a word that implied completion without judgment. The drawer slid shut easily. The phone screen went dark on the table beside me. No new notifications arriving to replace the last.